Let the 435 members who serve in the House of Representatives, let them vote. Pass a clean bill to avert a shutdown. Defy the anarchists. Respect the rule of law and help the Senate govern.
My message to Congress is this: do not shut down the government. Do not shut down the economy. Pass a budget on time. Pay our bills on time.
I was just so surprised to hear a United States president be so eager to negotiate with Iran, who refers to America as Big Satan, yet refuses to come and even have a conversation with Congress.
I very much hope when the House bill comes back that all 46 Republicans stand together, stand united against Obamacare.
Well, the ball is in the House Republicans' court. Really the House court, as the bill now went from the Senate to the House. House Republicans on the same sheet of music today. The Speaker Boehner's communication director tweeting, POTUS negotiates with Iran, Putin, but not Congress. Shocking. That, of course, refers to the phone call by the president to the Iranian president. Let's bring in our panel. Jonah Goldberg, at-large editor of National Review Online. Kirsten Powers, columnist for the Daily Beast, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Okay, Jonah, what now?
I called a bunch of guys on the Hill this afternoon, and the reaction from, I asked exactly that question, and the consensus answer was, hell if I know. It is a mess. It's like the Civil War in Game of Thrones. There's just a lot of different factions. Winter is coming. No one knows exactly what to do. I think that Boehner is locked into has to have something in the CR to appease the conservatives. My colleague at National Review, Bob Costa, reported today that Ted Cruz has actually been lobbying House Republicans very aggressively, which has got a lot of people in the leadership quite dyspeptic. And I think that basically no one knows what it is going to be. I think the thing that what Boehner has in his back pocket is this idea of getting this waiver from Obamacare for congressional staff in there to make it at least a very difficult vote for Republicans not to get on board with. It's a good political vote.
Just so everybody's on the same page here, today the Senate voted 79-19 to end debate on this House bill that would have stripped funding from Obamacare. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid then put the funding back in to the bill. It passed and now went from the Senate over to the House. Now you have a bill that's in the House that funds Obamacare, and the Senate Democrats would like to have it back clean, a continuing resolution to fund the government cleanly without anything attached. As Jonah's talking about, House Republicans are not going to do that.
Right. Well, look, if they're not going to do that, then we're headed for a government shutdown. It's very simple. The president isn't going to negotiate about Obamacare. He's said that a million times. I think it's an eminently reasonable position. They have picked the one thing that he's not going to negotiate on and put it, and basically said, you know, either you, and by the way, it's not really even negotiating about Obamacare, it's just killing Obamacare. So that's the negotiation, that Republicans will kill the president's signature achievement, and if he doesn't go along with that, then the government will shut down. And that's essentially, we seem to be on track for that, because I don't see how this can be reconciled.
Charles, there was word that House Speaker Boehner wanted to shift this fight to the debt ceiling fight, kind of pass this clean continuing resolution and then put on a bunch of stipulations on the debt ceiling, including delaying Obamacare by 1 year, simpler, fairer, flatter tax code, Keystone XL pipeline construction, regulatory reform, increased transparency at the EPA, among other initiatives. I mean, the list was very, very long and growing.
It's a two-term Republican agenda to be enacted in 2 weeks. Look, it obviously has everything Republicans want. The essence of a negotiation is you walk out with 2 of these perhaps, and that would be a triumph. You did the Keystone and the 1 year delay, you drop the others, and you look statesmanlike. There are 2 questions for Republicans. Which is going to be the fight you choose? The shutdown of the government or the debt ceiling? And second, what are you going to demand in the negotiation? On the first, it is open and shut that it should not be over the shutdown, because the polls show The public is 4-1 opposed to any shutdown or any even negotiations over a shutdown. But they are 2-1 opposed to Obama's position on the debt ceiling, which is I won't negotiate and I'm going to raise it. People hate raising the debt limit in the first place, and the poll that was done last week shows that 61% of Americans against 28% want to see a negotiation over the debt ceiling, and they are prepared to actually have it expire if it isn't a good negotiation. So that ought to be the place, and then you put in the Christmas tree and you negotiate, which Obama will have to do over the debt ceiling, and you go home with what you want. It's not that complicated. I just think people here have an urge to do a Pickett's charge, and that didn't work out very well.
What about this line from Republicans this afternoon that the president's negotiating with the Iranian president but not talking to them?
Well, I mean, there's a certain element of truth to that. President Obama has this very strange, monochromatic way of talking about things in which he constantly says, well, Americans desperately want people in Washington to compromise, and so therefore all the Republicans have to agree with me entirely. People want people to be civil, and that's why those evil terrorist bomb-throwing crazies need to stop being such extremists and agree with me because I'm so reasonable. It's this very one-sided approach to politics, and I agree with Charles entirely. The continuing resolution fight is a much tougher fight for Republicans, even if they sneak in all of this Secret Santa stuff that they're doing. But the budget, the debt ceiling one, makes a lot of sense, and the president has to negotiate on that.
Take a listen to Senator Rubio and Schumer on the different tone of the messaging today.
It sounds like the Democrats here in Washington are obsessed with shutting down the government, and that's all they talk about. I don't know of anyone who wants to shut down the government. The only thing we want to shut down is Obamacare. And the reason why we want to shut down Obamacare is because of the harm it's doing to the American middle class, to hardworking people who get up in the morning and are working hard just to try to get ahead.
The tactic of waiting until the last minute to come to deals has been used a lot in recent years. And in the past, it's worked out at the very last minute. Let's hope that happens again. But if Speaker Boehner attaches anything, the likelihood of that happening becomes smaller and smaller.
The likelihood, if anything comes back. You're saying if anything comes back, Kirsten, we're headed for a shutdown on Tuesday.
I think as long as they're trying to defund Obamacare, we're headed for a shutdown. And I just want to address this line that everyone thinks is so cute about the terrorists. I think it actually reflects badly on the Republicans. I think that they actually are behaving so badly in this situation that it is impossible to negotiate with them. Again, I'll go back to the fact that there's no negotiation. They want to defund a signature program. What's there to negotiate about? It's like saying,
well, I mean, if they send back a one-year delay, that's a negotiation.
We won't pass your continuing resolution unless you can find water on Mars. Like, let's just come up with something that absolutely is not going to happen, or human life on Mars. I don't. It's not something that's going to happen. I agree if they come back and say a one-year delay, perhaps. I don't think that
that's called
Obama
negotiation.
Wants that. But this is the first that they're talking of doing that. I mean, that's not. What is this? Every time taking everything all the way up to the brink, before you will suddenly bring up maybe we'll delay for a year, which I don't think is a good idea anyway.
Let me just say that NASA reported yesterday that the Martian soil is 2% water. So I don't know.
Human life.
2% is enough.
Human life.
Look, I think what Schumer said is if you attach anything on the CR, we're going to reject it. That's not true. If you attach something that 80% of Americans want to see, for example, that you don't exempt the members of Congress, which is unbelievably unfair, I bet you that Democrats in the Senate will approve. You have to choose stuff that is very popular, and that's how you win a showdown, which would shut down the government. If you do something where the country is split, you're going to get crushed.
Last word.
One last point. Obamacare was the most partisan piece of legislation, major legislation, of the last 100 years. Some new data is out about that. This is the natural consequence of such a divisive move where the other party is completely not bought into something, and they're trying to have a negotiation that they were locked out of 4 years ago.
Next up, the Friday Lightning Round.